Welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking a Cryptic, where today we're going to be looking at this puzzle on the screen, which is called Number Crunch, and it's by Tall Cat. Now, I only did a Tall Cat puzzle a few days ago. I think that was called Twixt, and it was brilliant. So I went through our list of sort of recommended puzzles that have been approved by testing, and I found that this one has also been sort of wholeheartedly recommended. So I've sort of thought I would like to have a go at it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And I even get a given digit. Look, a 3. Oh, although the 3 is not in the corner, so it doesn't. So yeah, that's not 3 in the corner. That's not 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. But it's still a given digit, which is very generous indeed of the Tall Cat. Now, I've got some weird and wonderful news for you, because I'm always fascinated to hear where viewers are watching Cracking the Cryptic from. When we were doing the witness stream the other day, there was, I think Mark said there were over 200 countries mentioned or something like that, of people where people were actually situated while they were watching the stream. Well, we heard on the Discord server yesterday, and what must be a first for the channel, that we have our first viewer from space, which is extraordinary. So very welcome if you're watching this. It's quite an amazing thing. I hope that I'm sure you're the first person to be watching us from space, but I hope you won't be the last. But yeah, it's pretty amazing where you can get to from an attic in Surrey, isn't it? Other news, we've just released, obviously it's just ticked by the 1st of September, so if you're a patron of the channel over on Patreon, do go over there at the moment. There is a Looney Tunes Sudoku hunt that many of you have already solved, and the feedback's been great, so we're delighted you've been enjoying that. We've also released the video on how to solve Heatwave, which was last month's Patreon reward, that set of puzzles by Grockles. And we've also released a big document explaining and going through the Sudoku Murder Mystery Hunt, which I know so many of you had a go at. I think we had 700 or 800 entries in the end for that last month as well. So there is a whole load of stuff over on Patreon at the moment. If you're a patron of the channel, thank you so much. Your support keeps the channel going. And if you're not a patron of the channel, do consider it. You get to be, it's $2 a month, and you get to be part of the best Sudoku club in the world. So it's a good deal. Now, any other news? Not really, I don't think. Please do subscribe if you're not subscribed and you enjoy the content. That would be most kind, and get us up towards 400,000 subscribers, which we are nearly at. But with that, let me read you the rules of Number Crunch. And we've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Each purple line must contain a set of non-repeating consecutive digits in any order. So these are Renban lines. Renbans sort of become more and more popular in recent weeks. How does a Renban line work? Well, let's imagine that square's a 9. If that square's a 9, then the consecutive digits that would have to be on this Renban line would have to be 7, 8, and 9. And they could appear in any order. So it could be like that, or the 9 could be over there, and that would be an 8, etc. So basically, we've just got to make sure each Renban line contains a consecutive sequence of non-repeating digits in any order. And then we've also got arrow rules today, which says that the digit along an arrow, digits along an arrow must sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. So let's look at this arrow here. Let's imagine that was a 1, and that was a 4, and that was a 2. 1 plus 4 plus 2 is 7, so you'd put 7 into this cell. And in fact, there's a short stubby arrow emanating from this circle as well, so that would also be a 7. So this would be a valid way of filling these arrow cells. And that's it. So do have a go. The way to play, as usual, is to click the link under the video. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. And the first thought here is, although I do have a couple of thoughts, I think I have a couple of thoughts. What a ridiculously meta thing to say. But I don't think we should be looking at the Renban lines. And the reason I say that is the longest Renban line is 4 cells. And therefore, it could, I suppose, contain high digits or low digits. If it was a 5-cell Renban line, we'd at least know there was a 5 on it. But this 4-digit Rembrandt line here. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or it could be 9, 8, 7, 6. So it could be low digits, it could be high digits, or it could be medium digits. So we don't know a great deal about those lines, I don't think. Although I am noting that they do seem to be describing a rather close rendition of the fistomaphel ring. Yeah, okay, well let's do easier stuff first, although that is nagging at me now. Let's look at the arrows, because each of these arrows in the corners of these boxes has a 3-cell arrow emanating from it. Now each of these 3-cell arrows can't contain a repeated digit. You can't repeat a digit in those 3, in those 3, in those 3, or in those 3. So the minimum I could make these 3 digits add up to would be a 1 plus a 2 plus a 3, which is 6. Now this is, you can see immediately this is getting interesting, because that means each of these corner cells has to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. But each of them has a short stubby arrow, and the short stubby arrows all project into the central box of the grid, where they now can't be the same digit, because obviously whatever that is can't then be repeated in any of those 3, etc. Which means that each of these is a different digit. And that does make me think that I should be colouring them in, but I'm wondering whether or not that would be slightly premature, because yeah, I'm not going to colour them in. I can definitely see a piece of logic from the fistomaphel ring that looks like it's interesting. So I think it's always a bit of a dilemma whether to explain the fistomaphel ring, because if it turns out not to be relevant, it's a bit of a waste of everyone's time. But I think I am going to do it here, because I can see one deduction I can make from it. And some of you ask, why don't I just refer to a video in which I explain the fistomaphel ring? Well, the thing is, we get new viewers all the time, and I think those new viewers, they deserve to have that jaw-dropping moment during the video. And why do I say jaw-dropping? Well, I remember when I was first shown the fistomaphel ring, I did not believe it could be true, and yet it was. What is the fistomaphel ring? Well, it tells you that those blue cells there are the identical digits. You see there's 16 cells in blue. Those 16 cells are identical. They contain the exact same set of digits as the yellow cells in the corners of the grid. I hear Maverick in the distance. He never misses an opportunity to interrupt my videos with his flypasts. Never mind. But anyway, I mean, that's pretty amazing. If you've never seen that before, I guess that's pretty amazing. I certainly found it amazing, and you might be wondering why that's true, and I will tell you. So, what's the best way of proving this at the moment? I think I haven't done this for a while, but I think the way I was doing it when I last did it was to look at the 4 corner boxes of the grid. So, these yellow cells, we should describe them. How are we going to describe them? What do we know these yellow cells contain? Well, this one is a complete box of the Sudoku. So we know from the rules of Sudoku that in the finished grid, those yellow cells there will be one set of the digits 1 to 9. Now, exactly the same is true of that box. That will be another set of the digits 1 to 9. Same down here, same down here. So the yellow cells we could describe as 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. We don't know where those digits are within these yellow cells, but we do know that together the yellow cells are 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight in a different colour a different set, or different 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. And then I'm going to say that those 2 things, the yellows and the blue cells I'm about to highlight, are going to be the same. So let's highlight column 3. That's clearly one set of the digits 1 to 9. It's a complete column of the Sudoku. Column 7, that's clearly another set of the digits 1 to 9. I'm going to highlight the whole of row 3. That's another set of the digits 1 to 9. And the whole of row 7. That's another set of the digits 1 to 9. So, at this point, we can say that the blue cells and the yellow cells contain the same sets of digits, because blue is 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9 and yellow is 4 sets of the digits 1 to 9. Now the eagle-eyed among you will say, you've made a mistake, Simon, because this cell here appears twice in blue. You're quite right, it does. Because remember, let's say this square was a 6. We don't know what it will be in the finished grid, but let's just say it was a 6. This 6 is definitely in column 3, and it's also in row 3. So this 6 is counted twice. So we need to remember that these corner cells are counted twice. Maybe I should make them a slightly different colour, just so that people remember that. So at this point, if we count these cells twice, the blues and the yellows are the same set of digits. Now, how will that statement be altered if I delete from blue and yellow whatever this digit is? Let's make that digit, I don't know what it is, let's say it was a 7. If I remove it from blue and I remove it from yellow, then it's still clearly the case that the yellow and the blue sets are the same. If they're the same before I remove this digit from both sets, then you can see that it must follow that once I have removed this digit from both sets, they're still the same. And that's true for all the bicoloured cells, except the ones that have an orange flash, which we'll get to now. So at this point, if we count these corner cells twice, it's true to say that the blues and the yellows are the same sets of digits, especially if I get rid of that one. But look, each of these corner cells does have a yellow flash as well, so it is in yellow. It's just in the blue set twice. So I can delete it once from yellow and once from blue, and then it'll still be left with being blue, if you see what I mean. So each of those can be removed from yellow. We remove them once from blue as a result of that. They retain their single blue nature, and now we have the proof. We've now proved that the yellow and the blue cells are still identical, and that is the proof of the fistomaphel ring. Isn't it amazing? Now, let's get back to actually solving the puzzle. How does this solve the puzzle? I don't know if it solves the puzzle, but it does tell us something very interesting indeed, because this quadruple here is just that. It is a quadruple. Within these 4 cells are the digits 7, 8 and 9 for sure. Well, where are we going to put 7, 8 and 9 in the yellows? And this is why Toolcat has given this given 3, I think. It's because, let's try and put 7 on an arrow. How are we going to make this arrow work now? There's no way, it just won't work. If we put the minimum we can into those 2 squares, that would be a 1 and a 2. 7 plus 1 plus 2 is 10, not 9. So you can never put the digit 7, the digit 8, or the digit 9 in any of the arrow cells in yellow. There's only 3 more cells left over. Those 3 squares must be 7, 8 and 9. And that's what I noticed when we were looking at the grid a few minutes ago. Now, it's a bit tricky this though, because I've got to try and remember these are different digits. But I could colour them, but I'm reluctant to do that, because let's say that was a 7. I would know this wasn't a 7, but I wouldn't know which of these other 3 was 7. So it's not like I could colour this one in and then colour that one in. I wouldn't actually, at least I don't think I would know. So I'm not going to do that. Right, what I am going to do though is ask about 6 as well. Because now we know there's a 6 in the blue, therefore there's a 6 in the yellow. Where does that 6 go? And the answer is, I've not got a clue. I don't know where the 6 goes, but it's definitely on an arrow. Now if it's on an arrow, what's the total for that arrow? Well, it must be 6 plus 1 plus 2 equals 9. So wherever the 6 goes, wherever the 6 goes in any of these, on any of these arrows, it's going to have a 9 in its corner. Now, This is beautiful logic. It is beautiful logic. Because that matters not for the 6, I don't think. I think it matters... This is so clever. It's so clever, honestly. Right. Now I want to think about... I'm just going to fill in these digits. I've no idea what the order is, but let's fill them in. And now let's just think about what the composition of the arrows is in each of these cases, because it's quite interesting, especially as these are Renban lines. My thoughts are tumbling over each other at the moment, but the 6 arrow, well, it'll be a 1, 2, 3 arrow, but the point I want to make is it's got a 1 on it. The 7 arrow will be a 1, 2, 4 arrow. That'll have a 1 on it, therefore. The 8 arrow will either be a 1, 2, 5 arrow or a 1, 3, 4 arrow. It's got a 1 on it. The 9 arrow, we know because it has to have a 6 on it, has a 1 on it. So each of these arrows has a 1 on it. Now, if each of the arrows has a 1 on it, what does that tell us about the fistomaphel ring? Well, we've got to put 4 1s in the fistomaphel ring. Where do those 1s go? Well, they don't go in the corners because we know they're a 6, 7, 8, 9 triple. So each of these, each of these Renban lines has got to have a 1 on it. And if a Renban line has a 1 on it, we know what the composition of the Renban line is. So this Renban line must be 1, 2, 3. That Renban line must be 1, 2, 3. These are a bit more complicated, but we know that the Renban lines are 1, 2, 3, and 4. We just don't quite. Well, we know those aren't 1s because we know the 1s must live in those. But we don't quite know whether these are. Yeah, because they don't have to be in order. We don't know what these digits are yet. Yeah, okay. Okay, right, I'm going to delete these though, because I've just noticed something else. If that's a 1, 2, 3 triple, and it is, and this is a 1, 2, 3 triple, and it is, where are we putting 1, 2, and 3 in box 9? Well, the answer, by Sudoku, is only on those squares. So these are a 1, 2, 3 triple, and that square is a 6, and that's our first digit in the grid. So that's a 6, it transposes through here to give us another 6. Those are not 6, these are not 6. And we can now do what exactly with this new knowledge? We've got... yeah, I see, nearly. Yes, I do see. Right. The next piece of magic that Toolcat seems to have built into this is that this is a 2-3 pair. How do I know that this is a 2-3 pair? Well, it's because we now have quite a good grip on the blue squares. And the question I think we should ask now is there a 5 in the blue squares? And there isn't. So if there isn't a 5 in the blue squares, wherever the 8 goes, let's put the 8 here. What's on its arrow? Well, it can't be 1, 2, 5. Because we can't put a 5 in the fistomaphel ring. So the 8 arrow is 1, 3, and 4. But if the 8 arrow is 1, 3, and 4, and the 7 arrow, wherever that lives, let's put it there, is 1, 2, and 4, then how many 4s do we need to include in the fistomaphel ring? The answer is 2. There are definitely 2 4s in the fistomaphel ring. And if there are 2 4s in the fistomaphel ring, where do we put the 4s? And the answer is, we don't know exactly, but we do know that that string of digits must have a 4, and this string of digits must have a 4, which means that those 2 digits cannot be 4, and they become a 2-3 pair. Isn't that beautiful? And now, there must be a 4 look on this arrow by Sudoku, which means this square is not a 9. Because we know the 9 is a 1, 2, 6 arrow. I love this. This is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, right. In fact, now I want to look at the central box, don't I? Because what I'm noticing now is that this is a Renban line. And the only digits I've got left to place, I think, are 1, 4 and 5. So this has to be consecutive, so that's a 1. So that's not a 1. That's not a 1. I've got a 2, 3 pair here, so that's become a 4. Actually doing some Sudoku now. That 4 gives me back, I suppose that bounces back in here and gives us a 4 and a 5. So this square is not a 4. 4 is on this Renban line now, and it can't have a 1, 2 or a 3 on it, so that's a 4, 5 Renban line. So 5 must be up here. Would be interesting if it was on that line, because that line can't have a 4 on it, so that would have to be a 5, 6, 7 Renban line. Okay, let me try and do more stuff here. What's easy to do? 6, I suppose, must be in those 2 squares. So 6 is in one of those 2 cells. Ah, okay. Right, look at these 3 squares. Because these 2 squares down here are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. They are 7s, 8s and 9s, which means there is a 7, 8, 9 triple. That's got to be a 7, 8, 9 as well because of this Renban line and the inability of this cell to be 6. But there's a 7, 8, 9 triple in column 6. Which means that these squares are selectable from 1, 2, 3 and 5. I might actually pencil mark that because I can see I can get rid of 3 from... Right, I can get rid of 1 from here as well. Because there's no way... I know there's a 1 in the blue strip. So this is 2 or 5. Well, it can't be 2, because if it's 2, that Renban line's got to be 2, 3, 4, because it can't use 1, and it can't use 4, so that's a 5. This is not a 5. And this is brilliant. This is now 5, 6, 7 as a Renban line, because it can't have a 4 on it, and the 6 goes there, and that must be a 7, and that gets deleted. And this is an 8, 9 pair. Oh, okay, maybe that doesn't go any further than that. That felt quite exciting for a moment. This square can't be a 1, because the 1 is definitely in one of those 2 positions in the box. Now, the other thing I'm just thinking is that this arrow here can't contain a 3. So this can't be an 8, because an 8 we know needs a 1, 3 and a 4. On its arrow. So, what does that mean? 7 and 9 both well, 7 has 1, 2, 4, 9 has 1, 2, 6. So this arrow has a 1 and a 2 on it. That doesn't seem to do anything. Come on, we must be very close, I think, to working out the remaining secrets in this puzzle. Oh, I've got a 7, 8, 9 triple in the bottom row that's appeared out of somewhere. So maybe, oh, I've got this 2, 3 pair here. So let's have a look at this column, perhaps. This column needs 6s, 8s and 9s into it. Yes, okay. That square is a naked single. Because it can't be 7, 8 and 9. So that's another digit in. That means 6 is in one of these 3 positions. It still gives the opportunity for this to be a 9, look. Because that arrow could be 1, 2, 6. Okay. Oh, that's not a 7 anymore. I've now got an 8, 9 pair in this row. There's definitely a 4 on this, so if that's 8, this is 1, 3, 4, that would be the 3. This would be a 1, 4 pair. If that's 7, This would be 1, 2, 4. Don't know. I feel we've got to find a way now of disambiguating these remaining arrows somehow or other. I'm not quite sure I'm seeing the immediate... Oh, 3 here. Look, that's going to be helpful. Maybe we can do something down there. Yeah, that's interesting. Look, I get a 1, 2 pair there. We know there's a 1, 2 on that arrow. So that becomes a 1, 2 pair in the corner. Which, is that interesting or not? Maybe. Don't know. 8s and 9s? Is 8 restricted somehow over this side of the grid? Or 6? No, because we don't know whether 6 is going on this arrow or not. It still could do. I'm not sure if it's this Renban line I need to focus on, or something else. It's probably Sudoku that I'm underdoing. That's what it normally is. So let's have a think. How are we going to figure out what to do next? We have got... This digit is a 4 or a 6, isn't it? Because if that's 7, that's 4. If that's 9, that's 6. So this has relatively small options. Or relatively few options, I should say. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Two. Yeah, no, I'm just not seeing how to do it. It must be on the cusp of cracking. It must be. We've got a 7, 8, 9 triple. We've got the 7, 8, 9 triples everywhere. Perhaps that's the key to this. 5s, 6s. 6 is in one of those 3 cells. No, don't think that's it. 8, 9 here. Is that somehow doing something that I'm not appreciating? Or perhaps it's something to do with these Renban lines still. There's definitely a 4 in there. I've already done that. What about 4 down here? 4 could be on this arrow. It's not impossible. Maybe it's something over here then. We've got to place 4s, 5s, and then a 7, 8, or a 9. So these squares contain a 4 and a 5. Oh no, I've come to a grinding halt. It was going so beautifully. Right, hang on. I've just seen there's an 8, 9 here. So there's definitely a 7 on one of... Oh, that's it. That's it. Good grief. Right. Yeah, it's really simple actually. You can see there's a 7 in one of those 2 cells, which means this is not a 7. And once that's not a 7, that can't be a 7 either. So this must be the double 9. And therefore this must be a 6. And that might be the whole key to this. This is now not 9. So these are 7, 8 arrows. That place means we can't put 6 on that arrow, so that becomes a 6. This arrow here has got to have a 1 on it, obviously, and it's got to have a 4 on it. Now that means that the 4 in this row has to be in one of those 2 cells. These 2 squares now are definitely not 9s. They're a 7, 8 pair. That gives us a 9 here. That gives us the 8 here. Gives us a 9 down here. Does some things over there. That square's not a 9 anymore. So this Renban line, has that become restricted in a useful way? I'm not sure. Oh, it can't be 9 actually. I've just seen from this 9 up here. So that means there's a 9 over there. Which means I remove 9 from this one. Remember, these are a 7, 8, 9 triple, which I've only just remembered myself. So that's an 8 and that's a 7. which means there's an 8 in one of those two squares. And there's a 7 in exactly this square, which might be helpful. This has become a 6-7 pair over there. Oh no, that's not correct. Sorry, I was missing the possibility that this is a 7. So I better not do that. Now, if that's an 8, do we run into trouble? Yes, we do. Oh, if that's this is probably why this Renban line is here. If that's an 8, that square's got to be a 7 or a 9. Oh no, it could be a 6. Ah, bother. In fact, it probably is a 6. Yeah, because the only way this Renban line could then work would be if it was 6, 7, 8. That would be a 6, and this would be a 7. That actually is possible. Okay, so we mustn't get ahead of ourselves there. That is all feasible. Okay, so we've got, in this row, we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quintuple. So we know that the edge cells, if you like, have got to be selected from 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's not 8, that's not 9, that's not 6, and that's not 7. Let's get rid of the 7s in the corners there and think harder. Okay, how do we get this? It's still resisting slightly, isn't it? We need 1, 2, 4, and 9. These squares here can only be 1s, 2s, and 4s. So this is the 9 in the row. So these squares now are 1s, 2s, oh whoopsie, need to get the right pencil marking, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. That square can't be 3, can't be 1, we know there's a 1 on the arrow, can't be 4, we know there's a 4 on the arrow, so this is down to 2 or 5. It's still not quite giving me enough joy, is it? Okay. It'd be really helpful to know the order of these, whether this was a 2 or whether this was a 2. That would really, I think, blow the puzzle open, because it would force certain digits into the yellows. Okay. What on earth? Oh, there's a 7 up here, look. That's giving me an 8 there. I don't know how long that's been sitting there. Probably too long. Does that do it? Please do it. Yeah, it does. Look at this column now. This square can't be a 1, 2, or a 3. Well, it needs to be a 4 or a 5. And that square needs to be a 4 or a 5. Now I've got a 4, 5 pair here. So these squares have got to be not 4, and we know there's a 4 therefore in the corner, so that's not a 4. These squares have got to be from 1, 2, and 3. It still seems to have the ability for this to be... Ah, no, I see. 3. That's what I should have noticed. There has to be a 3 on this arrow. And if there's a 3 on the arrow, there's no 2 on the arrow, and this is an 8. So that's an 8, and that's a 7. And that means this is 1, 2, 4, which means this digit is a 1, 2, or a 4. This is not 1, 2, or 4, so this is down to 3 or 5. Don't think there's a triple or a quadruple along there. But at least now we get the 8 and the 7 in the middle boxes. These squares have got to be 2, 5s, or 7s. And we can see they're not 2, so the 2 goes here. This is a 5, 7 pair. And those squares there have got to involve a 9 in some way. 4 and 9. Therefore this is 5, this is 4, this is 4, this is 3. Here we go. That finally gets us a 3 in the middle, which gives us a 2 here. We can remove 2s from all of those squares. So that's got to be a 5. Those squares there are something else. What are they? 3 and 6. That's not resolved quite. 1, 3, 4 there. This square's not 2. It might all come down, you know, to this Renban line still. It's still resisting. I think we've virtually done everything else. This 5 and this, we can do the 4, 5 down here. This 1, 3 gives us the 2 and the 1, but this is tidying. It's not actually getting to the bones of the problem. These squares here have got to be 5 and 8. So we are going to have to figure out what this is. So if it's 5, what could we do there? It feels like there's quite a lot of flexibility around that. If it's 8, we have to go 6, 7. Ah, no, hang on. That won't work. Yeah, maybe it's this 7 that's finally resolved everything. If that's 8, this square has only one option. It can't be 7 or 9, so it has to be 6, which is okay. But then this square now has to be 7, which it can't be. So that is probably the final bit of this. We've got to put 5 there, 8 here. And these squares now, well, one thing we can say is that we can't go down as low as 3. So there must be a 6 in this domino, because if there, well, there has to be. And if there's a 6 in this domino, we know that 6 must go here. So this square now has been reduced in options to either 7 or 4. And we know it's not 7, so that must be 4, which gets the 4 and the 9 resolved. Gets the 7 here. And that's not 6. And this square here is now a naked single. It's a 5. This is that's the 8 in the box. That's the 9 in the box. This 1 is doing some work. And over here we need to put a 7 in one of those. It must be done now. It's put up resistance. I think it was because I just missed some simple deductions. I got some of the easier well, not the easier, but the earlier deductions, I suppose. I got some of the earlier deductions relatively efficiently, it felt like, and then ground to the most almighty halt, for which I apologise. I wasn't trying to be slow, I promise. 1, 2s, this is not 4, look, or 3 actually. That's a naked single 1. So that's a naked single 1. That gives us a 3 and a 4. That 3 is giving us the 3 and the 2. So these squares are now 5 and 8, which we can do. That means that one must become a 6. That becomes a 9. The 6 and the 3 go in. The 3 and the 1, the 1 and the 2, the 2 and the 1, the 5 and the 7. That's a 1, I think. And these squares are 2 and 7, which is looking good. And this should all be tidied now. Oh, I hope. Yeah, 2 goes here. 3 goes here, 1 goes here, 1 goes here, 2 goes there. Dick. Beautiful. It's a beautiful puzzle. The logic at the start of that especially is so pure and attractive. It's just gorgeous. I absolutely loved the fact that I could write 7, 8 and 9 into those 3 cells using fistomaphel. And then I really loved the fact that the 6 had to go on an arrow, which forced 4 1s into these Renban lines, which basically seemed to blow the puzzle open. Now I got bogged down a bit after that. I got a 2-3 pair there, didn't I? And I couldn't resolve it. And I think what I should have noticed was probably down in this corner that there was a 3 on this arrow. Although I can't remember at that point whether I'd removed the 3 from that square, so it might have been harder than I was suspecting. I suspect I just missed a trick. But I hope you didn't shout at me too loudly. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I hope you enjoyed it, even a little bit as much as I did. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.